What's going on, people? It is your boy, Mr. Noland. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started with a poem, because what students didn't know is before I was a teacher, I actually wrote poetry for a living, and I was very good at it. So the poem I'm going to give to you, or read, is called Middle School Relationships. And it goes like this. Roses are red. Violets are blue. Some students say they have a boyfriend or girlfriend, but hey, we know that's not true. All right. So, with that being said, lately there's been a lot of students going around the school holding hands, and I just realized how gross that is. Because if the students haven't noticed this year, there's been a lot of illness going around school all throughout the year with teachers and with students. And that's because germs are passed along, or as students have cooties. And that comes from students using the bathroom and not washing their hands. So the next time you have a boyfriend or girlfriend and you're walking down the hall holding their hands, you might want to think to yourself, did they just wash their hands from using the bathroom or not? Because if they didn't, that's pretty gross. Also, we have Valentine's Day coming up on Friday. And Miss Richards has been coming on the intercom a lot, and she's been talking about all the big animals, stuffed animals, that they have to stay down in the office until the end of the day. Now, me personally, if I see any stuffed animals, if I see anyone eating hot Cheetos, hot Takis, any candy, I'm going to take it, and I'm going to give it to my new best friend, the trash can. And he's going to eat it all up. Now, some of you are like, you're not going to take my stuff. I paid for it with my own money. Well, first of all, it probably wasn't your money. It was probably your parents' money. And secondly, yes, I will. You can watch me. You're not more special than anyone else here. You need to learn to follow the rules. So if I see you eating anything on Friday, I'm taking it and throwing it away. So with that being said, let's get started on our notes. We are now going into addition and subtraction, expressions, and equations. Now, when we are writing an equation, we are looking for 5 things. We need a variable. That represents a letter, which is a number, so we need a variable. I need a math symbol. Your math symbol is either add, subtract, multiply, or divide. Then you need a number. And it's going to be equal to the total. So when you're writing an equation, I'm looking for those 5 things. A variable, a math symbol, a number, an equal sign, and the total. All right, as a quick refresher for vocabulary, a variable is a letter that represents a number. An expression is a math phrase. There's no equal sign here. An equation has an equal sign. All right, we're now going to start with some addition phrases. So this first piece, guys, is just vocabulary. Some of you are going to be like, wow, this doesn't make any sense. It's just vocabulary words that you're going to see a lot of. The word sum means to add. So when it says the sum of x and 13, that's just x plus 13. The word increased means to add. So m increased or added by 8. That's what it looks like. 3.5 and D. So that's just 3.5 plus D. For more than. That means I have to add 4 to something. So 4 plus S. I know that looks like a 5. It's just the letter S. Joe is 9 years older than Drew. who is n years old. So I'm going to take n, and I have to add 9 to it. Again, these are the basic vocabulary words that you will see that mean addition. Now the subtraction phrases that you'll see a lot of. Less than. So it says 5 less than p. That means you have p and you take 5 away from it. R decreased means to subtract. So R decreased by 7. Difference means to subtract. So that'll be y minus 11. 2.8 fewer than k. So that means we're taking k and subtracting 2.8 from it. And finally, Joe is 9 years younger than Drew, who is n years old. So you take n and you take 9 away from it. Again, some are like, this makes no sense. It's okay, guys. It's just vocabulary here. Now we're going to go into actually deciphering word problems, and we're going to create an equation from a word problem. The first one. Jake sold 7 more magazine subscriptions than Wyatt did. If Jake sold 25 subscriptions, how many did Wyatt sell? So we need to underline or circle some key information. Well, we got 7, and we got more. So Jake sold 7 more magazine subscriptions than Wyatt did. If Jake sold 25 subscriptions, how many did Wyatt sell? Okay. Well, I'm going to start with my variable. If you read the question, it's asking for how many did Wyatt sell. So we don't know what Wyatt sold. So I'm going to use W for Wyatt. So whatever Wyatt sold, we're going to have to, more means to add, so we're going to have to add 7 to it. And that's going to give you the total amount that Jake sold, which was 25. You just now wrote an equation. Now let's solve it. Yesterday we solved skill level problems, one-step adding and subtracting equations. We're trying to isolate the variable by itself. Well, attached to my W here is this plus 7. What's the inverse of adding 7? You can say negative 7 or subtract 7. Same thing. Well, 7 take away 7 is called a zero pair. They cancel each other out. That leaves me with my W equals 25 minus 7 is 18. Wyatt just sold 18. Now, we're going to see if this makes sense. We're going to plug it in. So I'm going to write this off to the side. Wyatt sold 18, and we said Jake sold 25. Well, it says Jake sold 7 more magazines than Wyatt did, right? Well, isn't 18 plus 7 25? Oh, well, yes, it is. So that means Wyatt's number is correct, and Jake is also correct. So all you do to check your answer is you plug in what you solved for. Plug it into the equation to see if it adds up. All right. Done with the first one. Let's try the second one. Joshua bought his mother flowers and a card for Mother's Day. He spent $21.79 on roses. If Joshua spent a total of $25, how much did he spend on the card? So I'm going to write this equation a couple different ways. First of all, we have flowers. He bought flowers. Plus, he bought a card. And he spent a total of $25. So this is what our equation needs to look like with words. Well, the good news is I can plug in some numbers. It says he spent $21.79 on the roses. So the flowers or the roses were $21.79. Plus, anywhere in here does it tell me how much he spent on the card? Well, no, it says how much did he spend on the card. That's what we're solving for. And that's going to equal his total amount spent, which was $25. Guys, you just set up an equation. Now we just need to solve it. I'm going to rewrite it off to the side here so I have a little bit more space to solve it. All right. Again, I'm trying to isolate the variable c by itself. But attached to it is this $21.79. What's the inverse of adding $21.79? Subtracting $21.79. We need to do that to both sides. $21.79 minus $21.79. There's zero pairs. They cancel each other out. I'm left with my c, so bring it down. Well, $25 minus $21.79 is going to give you $3.21. That is how much the card cost. So y'all just did two things on one problem. You set it up, and then you solved it. Now we got one more. AJ delivered 12 fewer newspapers this week than last week. If he had delivered 37 papers this week, how many papers did he deliver last week? Well, let's see here. We have this week. This week he delivered how many papers? 37. Last week was 12 fewer than this week. So I'm going to use last week, L for last week, plus 12, and that'll give you the total that he spent, or the total newspapers that he had this week, which was 37. So there's my equation. Last week's newspapers plus 12 more has to give us 37. There's your equation. What is my one step to get L by itself? Well, attached to the L is this plus 12. What's the inverse of adding 12? Subtracting 12. 12 take away 12, zeros out, zero pair. The L comes down. 37 minus 12 is 25. So last week he delivered 25 newspapers. Now here's how you check it. You take how many newspapers he delivered this year, or this week, which was 37, minus the 12 fewer. So what is 37 minus 12? Oh, that gives you the 25 that he had this week. Same thing. All you did was check your work there. That's a good answer. Now it says on your own. Now, for some of you guys, this is going to be still pretty difficult. Understandable. It's the first time you've really done this. But I want you to take roughly 5 minutes on your own. You're trying number 1, plus everything on the back. Now, I don't want to hear you come up to me right away. I don't know what to do. Well, great. You're trying. Give some effort. After a few minutes, I'll start to go over a couple of these. Alright, guys. I hope this video helps. You have a great day. I'll talk to y'all soon. Bye.